and work even harder to change Bermuda for the better and for everybody. What we're going to do today is introduce these promised candidates. This has been a question for some time, and we've been working very hard to build a diverse team of competent professionals and strength, high quality character, and we've added even more to that grouping today. We in the One Bermuda Alliance are a national party, and we are ready to form a national government. As you can see from the people in this room, that we have a team that is ready to govern on day one. This is a strong, cohesive, and committed team dedicated to the future of our country. And we have to thank this team for having each other's back, for working together, for our party volunteers who are constantly coming out and helping us. The One Bermuda Alliance is ready to form the next government of Bermuda. We're this evening rolling out, there we go, James Smokey Perry in Constituency 1. We're rolling out Clifton Lambert in Constituency 4. Mr. David Rogers in Constituency 14. Mr. Tariq Smith in Constituency 24. Montel Curran in Constituency 26. Victoria Cunningham in Constituency 28. Dion Smith in Constituency 29. Rolling out Mr. Kellen Lewis in Constituency 32, but he is currently not available at work. And last but certainly not least, someone who's been around for a little bit, helping out in the back, and I'm really proud to roll him out, Roger A. Durant, Constituency 35. With that, I'll take your questions.
Yes, good afternoon. Satan Hendrickson with the World Gazette. As I'm sure the OBA is aware, one of your, I suppose, former candidates, Mr. Justin Mathias, put out quite a strong response or a strong statement yesterday. And there were several questions posed to the OBA that unfortunately we did not get a response for, so I would just like to put those to you now. One of the first things is, first and foremost, does the OBA have 36 candidates, and are they confident that they have enough qualified members to lead a government?
Yes, for the millionth time, yes. But secondly, I would just note the source as a former in every meaningful way. The OBA has reformed and changed significantly in the years since his absence, and it would be very difficult to validate his positions or questions because it's an unnamed source that could mean anybody. So I'm afraid that I don't know what he's talking about. He hasn't been around long enough to know what he's talking about. Sorry, I don't.
And I guess on the same note, this does kind of lead into what you were saying, but he did say that there was a general, just a general disorganization within the party. What do you have to say to that?
Well, he did offer to help me on Wednesday, the 8th of January via text. Maybe I should have got back to him. Maybe he's holding a grudge. I don't know why he's making that accusation. There's just no basis for it. He just wouldn't know. I'm so lucky. I lead an incredible team of people who've been around for 4 years, 5 years, working in the trenches every day to change Bermuda, to make Bermuda a better place. None of these candidates waited until it was a matter of convenience. None of these candidates to be rolled out and to participate in the community. We've been holding cleanups and seniors' teas and canvassing and just getting stuck in, and took the better part of, if not over a year, to develop a platform that's got actual solutions to actual problems. That's what we're here to do. We're here to strengthen Bermuda, to enforce integrity in politics, and to enforce fiscal discipline. That's it.
At one point, you did call into question the strength of your leadership and said that you didn't initially want to take the post, but were selected. This is a bit of a two-parter, but one, generally, what do you have to say to that? And two, is it true that you did not want the post at first? And if that was the case, has that changed? And so when and why?
Yeah, the first time I considered it was the day after the last election. And I remember being very new to the job, and there was a question. We had to go, you have to go back into caucus and figure things out. And I remember distinctly going, I don't even know where the bathrooms are yet. Why on earth would I want to be in charge? So yes, I would say that there was definitely, before being leader, that there were times when absolutely. I thought, is that something I want? And ultimately, it came down to, there was an incredible opportunity to serve even more. And I took that opportunity.
And finally, I just want to make it understood. I understand that Ms. Elizabeth Deacon and Tia Smith were involved, and they were listed as constituents, but I don't necessarily know if I see them. I just want to make sure, will those two still be running in the general election?
As candidates. So they won't be running in the general election. There still are volunteers and party officers and officials. So, because what happens is when candidacy rolls around, when the election finally rolls around, you do have to adjust your life and make sure that you're capable of serving in the way that you want to, with that kind of commitment, long-term vision. And sometimes life circumstances simply change, and there's nothing wrong with that. And for any candidate who's ever walked up the stairs, for any person who's considered candidacy, life changes and they don't have that particular amount of capacity, that's fine.
And I apologize. I thought that was my last question, but it was not. I understand that Mr. Ben Smith put out a statement regarding Mr. Mathias' comments. Is there anything that you, as the party leader, would like to add to those statements, or just kind of highlight and emphasize?
I think the statement stands on its own. And that's the primary statement that we've worked on for release as it relates to Mr. Mathias's curious hobbies.
I see. One last thing. This is regarding actually Mr. Clifton Lambert. I understand that he obviously won't be running, and he's titled himself as, quote, the first blind person to be running for Parliament. Mr. Lambert, how does it feel to potentially make history, at least in terms of this running?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How does it feel to essentially be a person in your position, and the first legally blind person to be running in this candidacy? Is there anything that you hope to bring to the table, and anything that you'll be focusing on, whether with regards to people who suffered from inflictions such as yours, or just anything in general?
Well, people like me, for one. But the most important one to me is the economy. And from that runs everything else. And I'm very, very concerned about the seniors and the cost of living in Bermuda. And the amount of people, apparently it's been 6,000, I think, that's moved out of Bermuda, who cannot live in a country that's run by the PLP for the last 27 years. So I think that I can help, especially after putting 45 years in the military and serving maybe 10,000 men and women in Bermuda going through the army. I think I have something to offer, and I will not hold back.
Good evening, Mr. Richardson, Gary Foster-Skell from Bermuda Broadcasting. So you just said that candidates have been out in their communities, canvassing, etc. But how many of these candidates that you just rolled out now have been doing so in their constituencies, and for how long?
For each one, they've all been around for some time. Smokey's been around helping out for a while. Cliff, Tariq, Montel, Rodre. So I think it's fantastic, the work they've done before.
But some of those candidates were already listed on the website, so we know they were in their constituencies. I'm talking about the new candidates you just rolled out today. There were about 8 constituencies that you still needed to cover, and you've covered about 5 of them.
So I want to add that,
Please.
you know, since we're a team, we've been canvassing together in pairs or, you know, with each other. So while some of my colleagues might have just been rolled out today, they've been actively out in the community.
So can you tell me that in all of those 8 constituencies, well, 7 not including C20, which has just essentially become open with the retirement of Susan Jackson, but basically C13, 14, 26, 29, 32, 33, and 35.
Sure, I'll get your statement.
Will people in those constituencies be able to turn around to us, the media, and say, yep, we've seen the OBA on our doorstep?
Yes. I don't know. I mean, the OBA has been working on this for 4 or 5 years. We've been out all over the place, including community events in these constituencies. So it's been a fantastic time, and we're really happy that we're able to transition people from very much undertaking the work to front of the camera and working with the community directly.
Okay. And you've got, just to touch on, you've still got 3 constituencies to put candidates in from what you've told us today. That's C13, that's Diallo Rabens constituency, Devonshire North Central, where also former PLP Minister Renee Webb is running there, and C33, that's Sands South, where Jamal Simmons holds for the PLP. Are you rolling out in those constituencies, or even with that C13, are you going to allow two PLP heads to go at it?
Yes, we are looking forward to rolling out. Nomination day is the 31st of January, though we're probably rolling out before. But I want to correct your language there. You said put candidates in those spaces. Candidacy is a process. So many people can be in the process of candidacy or be an approved candidate. What we're talking about is rolling people out, which is that person is then put forward as publicly as the candidate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the PLP keep holding press conferences to talk about their achievements. You said today, quote, you were ready to form the next government of Bermuda. So what solid information can you give us about an OBA government? List 5 concrete things an OBA government would do within the first 100 days.
Well, we've made a commitment in this campaign, first of all, for the absentee balloting, to undertake that in the first year. The other 5 items are listed in our platform, which has been available since, I think, for 6 months. And we've worked incredibly hard on that. That took 1.5 years to put together. One of the things we have to do when we first get in is ascertain the state of the government's finances and its activities and its standards. We're in a bad place right now because we were well aware that we were going to get audited financial statements and going into the budget season. As it stands right now, we don't have any of that information. And so we're really looking forward to getting access to that as a matter of primacy, as a matter of urgency.
You've said that several times. Could that be seen by the public as an excuse for not giving plans? Because the budgets are there. They essentially show where the spending has been. You're indicating that there's something we can't see.
So this goes back to the point of the first OBA government, which took over and found out that it couldn't pay civil servants. Finances.
Was there any indication
finances.
in the budget before that,
No.
the PLP's last budget, that they could pay?
No.
No.
So that's why we're focused this time. The OBA government made a number of promises going in last time. We've made a number of commitments, but what we want to make sure is that we're in a position to fulfill those obligations as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. The inclusion of several independents in this election could split the vote in many constituencies, and as we've seen in the recent by-elections, and it could affect the OBA more than the PLP because the PLP can afford to lose votes. Do you agree?
I think the independents can affect everyone. The voters of Bermuda are open-minded people in the vast majority who have voted for both parties in their past. So what I would say is that the independents can attract a vote just as easily as anyone else, especially from standing parties.
Are you still, I'm going to ask you, you responded to this kind of question before, but are you still open? Are you open to any kind of collaboration with the FDM or the independents ahead of the election?
By necessity, we're always open. We are the One Bermuda Alliance. We design a big tent party to make sure that we include all representation, all diversity of Bermuda, all different kinds of thoughts and professional background, families. So we're always open to talk, and we talk infrequently. I grew up with Mark Bean. We see each other in the street, so we'll have a catch up. And Sir John Swan, I like to get coffee in his little restaurant there. So sometimes I stop and talk to him. So we're always engaging with each other. Is there something specific you're asking about in that engagement?
Well, is there any, will we see any kind of interaction or collaboration ahead of the election, or are you going to all be in your separate camps?
Well, we've chatted in the past. There's a long way to the end of the campaign, and we'll
about chatting and talking about collaboration. Is there any political collaboration that may take place between now and the election, or are you all just running your own campaigns and in your own camps?
Collaboration starts with first a good faith exchange, being willing to talk to one another, and so that's why we don't close the door on that, because the One Bermuda Alliance has a good faith relationship and is willing to talk to independents and the FDM.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more specifically, as you asked, would you be willing to be tactical if you thought, okay, if we don't run in this constituency, there's a chance that independent might win. If we don't run in this constituency, there's a chance the FDM might win. If your main goal was to move the PLP out of government, which you indicate that the PLP is doing a bad job, would that be something you would consider?
Yeah, so there's more than one way to collaborate politically during a general election campaign, and that specific tactic I don't want to share with you.
Very well.
Any questions for candidates, Gary?
Actually, I still have one more for the leader. Bert reiterated today that they'll balance the budget and make more tax cuts prior to the funds coming from the corporate income tax. How are you supposed to top that?
Well, that's why he said it, because you can't. Right? I mean, what else was he going to say, that you can't do that? I'm sorry, but that's the simple fact of the matter is that we in the One Bermuda Alliance have made it quite clear our position as it relates to CIT and that the necessity of balancing the budget.
But he
We
said
spoke
they'll
of that.
do that without the corporate income tax. They're going to do that within this current budget. Maybe the finance minister will
Come over here, Doug.
Gary, as you know, the Premier has made a big show about the so-called balanced budget this year. This government, the PLP government, has increased the net debt by $106 million over the past 2 years. Does that sound like a balanced budget to you, Gary? So you can say a lot of things. That doesn't mean they're always true. You can find those numbers in black and white in the government's own reports. And that's why our leader says we need to see what's in the budget. Because what else is in there that we're not seeing today? Maybe there's nothing, maybe there's something. You tell me. Leave it at that.
I would like one question for some of the OBA candidates that are essentially stepping into extremely difficult to win seats that are historically very green. So we've got constituency 35, that was 74% green in terms of the vote in 2020. Constituency 32, Scott Simmons held it for the PLP in 2020, 70% of the vote. That's Reverend Durant and Canon Lewis. I'm sorry he's not here today, but we're looking at Southampton East, constituency 29, Dion Smith is going up against Zane De Silva, who they held 89% of the vote in that. So perhaps I could hear from those going into that fight in these green strongholds of the West. Perhaps Rodrigo and Dion Smith would like to speak.
If I may
that
speak to the theme first, because some of the way that you describe that, just because something is hard doesn't mean it shouldn't be tried. And I think that there are plenty of voters in those constituencies who have an open mind and are willing to listen to what the One Bermuda Alliance brings to the table. I don't think that any constituency belongs to any party. I don't think that any voter belongs to any party. And these gentlemen and lady who are going to run in these constituencies that we're announcing today are just as committed to Bermuda as I am. And so for that reason, I think it's not a question of how hard something is, but how worth something is. Roger?
Evening, everyone. How can I help you?
Oh, I went. You're up against Dennis Lister in constituency 35, and that is he held about 3/4 of the vote share in 2020. So, have you been on the ground there? Who have you spoken to? What are the issues in that constituency, and how are you going to win it?
Well, I grew up in Somerset my entire life, and I can tell you now, I heard you ask Jerry, and have OBA been out there in the constituency canvassing and all that. I've lived in Somerset 20 plus years. I haven't seen no representation from the PLP either. So for me, if you ask me why am I doing this, I'm doing this because I want the Bermuda that I was promised under the PLP for my children. So like Jerry and said, what you have here is a group of people who's dedicated, not only that, but committed to ensuring the future of Bermuda.
Also able to hear from Dion Smith, who's constituency 29. And this, you were already running in a different constituency.
No, I'm D2.
Sorry?
There's two Dion Smiths.
There's two Dion Smiths.
Oh, well, I'm very sorry.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
So we're doubling up here, and you'll have to leave it to the media to work out how we're gonna figure that one out. But yeah, so Southampton East, Zane De Silva held that seat with nearly 90% of the vote in 2020, and so again, a big challenge, very green seat. What have you been doing in the constituency? What are the issues in the constituency, and how are you going to win it?
The issues in the constituency is violence, as you know, on the beach and at Rangers Club. I'm family. Remember Alex Scott and there's people, whatever. That's my family. That's where that seat used to belong to family. The people in the constituency, that's family. I'm just getting in. The people in Bermuda, for the last 6-7 years, have been suffering. I first went up with Dion Smith to canvass with him. And I was getting into people's houses, and you had grandmothers there who had the children living abroad. You had the grandchildren living in the house with them. They're deciding whether they can have money for medication or rent. And they want to know who to talk to in order to fix these problems. They said they've approached government, meaning people in the civil service, and nothing's being done for them. So I decided to put my head into the race in order to help my Bermuda people. You know, I just want to ask people in the room, how many people in this room have family members that are living abroad because they can't make it there because you just raise your hand. How many people have family members abroad that are not even making it abroad, where you have to send money overseas to them in order for them to survive overseas. Can you put your hands in here? So this is why I'm running. Now, the premier talks about unemployment being at the lowest in Bermuda's history. What happens if we bring our 6,000 people back? Then what is unemployment can be? I just. Yep.
That's all our questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the media. With Jaren?
Yep.
You want a group shot?
Just like you
With Donnie?
might be allowed.